The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
You know, there comes a time in your life when you try to balance. You try to find balance, and you try to balance your approach to how you handle reality around you. Many of us during the pandemic have had to find new ways of balancing our lives. In fact, many of us have had to find a way of balancing our anger and our rage at a system that simply has proven that it doesn't care about us. A system that proves that it is more concerned with the quarterly profit margins than it is the lives of all the people who have died of COVID-19. How do you balance the rage against a political system that allows people to march up the steps of the Capitol on January 6th, meanwhile attacking critical race theory, or also known as American history? One of the most difficult things throughout this pandemic is how do you balance all of the rage and anxiety of what's going on around you with the fact that, well, you just got to keep living. You have to keep pushing. You have to keep persevering despite being angry about the reality, because it's hard to look around you. In fact, I would say it's impossible to look around you at the reality of what's happening in this country and not be outraged. It's difficult to simply be a Black person, as James Baldwin said, and look at the condition of Black people all around this country and not be outraged. How do you balance rage along with everything else? I'm not sure that I have the exact answer for you, but for me, it's realizing that it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to, quite frankly, be outraged because of the absurdity of everything that we're seeing. I mean, let's be honest about it. This country is moving along as if nearly 850,000 people haven't died of COVID-19. In fact, we are having an outbreak almost as if we learned nothing over the last 3 years. In fact, we are being pushed back into our schools, teachers having to make decisions about whether or not they're going to feed their kids and teach, or risk losing their jobs and save their lives. That particular conundrum is playing itself out in Chicago right now. It's playing itself out all around the country. In fact, family members of mine have had to make that decision. And there are millions of teachers and parents and students across the country who have been forced back into schools. Meanwhile, it is the best of time that you could ever imagine if you're a corporation or a billionaire, millionaire. It's hard not to be upset. It's hard not to be upset, especially when you see people who are, honestly, let's just be real, they're not good people thriving. Seeing people who do harm to other people thriving. People who lie, cheat, steal, scam, thriving. Meanwhile, the people of good faith, the people who are simply trying to be right by other people, the people who are trying to do good things, the people who are not more interested in money than they are, the people who are doing good things, it seems as though, well, we're living hand to mouth, check to check, scratching and surviving, doing everything that we can to simply make it to the next day. When we look around us, some of the most horrific people we can imagine are sitting on the thrones of this nation, of this empire. How do you handle? How do the indigenous people handle looking at an empire built on their genocide and their bones, looking up at Mount Rushmore, seeing their sacred grounds taken and turned into a shrine for an empire that has done them the greatest injustice? How do Black people in this country struggle with the reality that it is a country that is more committed to white supremacy than voting rights, as evidenced by the fact that we simply cannot get past the filibuster to protect Black people and brown people and marginalized people voting rights in this country? Because let's be sure, those are the people who are under the attack. How do we manage and filter all this? I like to say we'll laugh our way through it. We'll do a lot of that. We will address the issue. But the fact of the matter is, you can't process it unless you are willing to confront it. We must be willing to confront everything that we see happening around us. We must not make any apologies. We cannot apologize for fighting for what's good as hard, if not harder, than they are fighting for bad. Why is it that we have to mince words when we're fighting for something good? Why is it that we have to apologize for using bellicose language when they are literally sending people to their deaths? Why do the people of good faith have to be mild and timid, meek and mild? We don't have to. We can fight back. And that's what we're doing here every day at the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. Good morning to everyone. It is January 11th, 2022. Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. We'll be joined momentarily by Georgia Fort on the clock. Like it or not, Rebecca Azor, she will be in at 9 o'clock. DJ Exclusive, the one and only, he will be in at 9 o'clock as well. I want to begin, as always, with what happened in Black history, courtesy of Dr. Carl Mack, who's not with us today. But hey, Google, what happened today in Black history?
A successful businesswoman and civil rights activist. Moving to California, she opened a boarding house for gold miners and some of California's most prominent businessmen.
Okay, we're going to try that again. I'm not as... Let's do this. Is my microphone back? Okay, microphone is back. We're going to try it again in a moment after this first story. So let's go with some unionizing. One of the number one things that I believe that we have to start doing as a way of fighting back. We'll circle back momentarily to Black history. We have to start showing solidarity. We have to start working with workers. We have to start showing the roots of the union movements and how we can overcome the problematic past to be able to use union strength to protect our workers. And I'm really talking, honestly, the clip that we're getting ready to show is about Starbucks. But every time I talk about unions, the first thing that comes to mind is the union efforts for the boys and girls over there at Amazon. I mean, our sisters and brothers and non-gender conforming individuals who are delivering our Amazon packages every single day. Whenever I think about the unionizing efforts, I think about the people who are struggling that look exactly like me. Black people who are delivering these packages, who are working in these warehouses, who oftentimes we find people try to divide the Black community from unionizing efforts. Well, there's a unionizing effort that is happening among Starbucks employees, and it's spreading throughout the country, in Illinois, Colorado, Massachusetts, Ohio, and more. Starbucks CEO Kevin Johnson says the company opposes unionization, but told employees that they are the heartbeat of his company. Let's take a listen into this clip.
A small group of workers making a loud statement as the Starbucks crew at a Buffalo cafe vote to form a union.
We have proven that we are Starbucks. We are the heart of this company.
Now, workers at 2 Boston area Starbucks are looking to do the same. In a letter to employees, the CEO of Starbucks said they oppose unionization, but remain committed to their employees, calling them the, quote, heartbeat of this company.
It's very easy to consider yourself or to call your employees the heartbeat. What's difficult is doing something for them, especially during this pandemic when Starbucks is considered to be essential and workers are considered to be essential workers. The least that we can do is allow these essential workers to unionize, allow them the ability to organize against the corporations that have all the power. Listen, this is one of the reasons I'm a union supporter, right? I support unions despite the difficult history that we have with Black communities. Let's just be real. There's no doubt that there are union problems that existed and still exist. Nevertheless, when we are talking about organizing against major corporations that have billions of dollars at their disposal to do whatever they want with the lives of their workers, we have got to put a pin there. And there's a big and the government is not stepping in to be a buffer to big corporations because everyone is afraid of big government, but nobody is afraid of big corporations. When that is the case, such as it is in the United States of America, we need unions. We need solidarity with unions. We need unions to go through their past and fix whatever is in the history, whatever the problems are. We know, we have it documented. We know about the racism problems, the lack of ability to represent Black people as much as you would other workers. That's fine. That's the past. But we have to have solidarity today because the people who are behind these barista lines, the people who are driving these trucks, the people who are in the warehouses, they're not just white people. Workers in this country are not just white people. The working class in this country is not just white people. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to turn up this early in the morning, but here we are. We'll laugh in a minute when the rest of the crew gets here. But the working class in this country is not just white people. A. Philip Randolph, one of the greatest labor organizers in the history of this country, a Black man, right? We look at all of the efforts of Black people through this country, and it has always been around labor because we are labor. We're not limited to labor, but we work. We work hella hard. We are the hardest working people in this country, if you ask me. And at the end of the day, without a union, our efforts are in vain. because you do not have the ability as a single employee to fight back against a corporation that is demanding that you come into work during the middle of the pandemic and they didn't even want to give you more than $1 an hour for hazard pay. You can't fight that on your own. Not all unions are good. Some unions are. I mean, come on, we have the police unions. Let's just be real. Like, this is not to valorize all unions. It is to say that workers, if we are not united, if we are not holding hands in solidarity with people who don't necessarily look like us, don't necessarily believe like us, they may not have any of the belief systems that we have. Matter of fact, some of them might not have the same political ideology that you have, but you know what they believe in? The fact that we have to unionize against corporations that have exploited labor since time immemorial. And they have shown us that in this pandemic, they simply do not care about your life. They don't care about your livelihood, let alone your life. They don't care what it takes. What they need is for you to show up to work. And how else can you show up to work unless your kids go to school? That's the other side of this equation. On the other side of this equation, the way they keep getting people to come to work for them is by forcing people back into the schools. And we talk about this all the time on this show. Throughout this pandemic, schools on the best of days, when the sun is shining and there's not a cloud in the sky and everyone is vaccinated, on the best of days, schools are still a petri dish for spreading germs and viruses. And yet every part of our political and economic system has insisted that you send your kids back to school. And you know why? Well, you can't go out and work with your kids at home. You can't go out and consume with your kids at home. You can't go out and spend all of your money that they need you to spend in order to hit their quarterly profit margins unless your kids are at school. And here we are in the middle of a pandemic. Sometimes it feels quite honestly like we're at the beginning of the pandemic, as if we have learned nothing. Speaking of the pandemic, Quebec, Canada, has a pretty novel idea that seems to be working really well. Quebec is requiring vaccine proof for liquor and for weed, for cannabis. Quebec announced that it will require a vaccine passport to enter all liquor stores and all cannabis stores starting January 18th. First dose, watch this. This is how effective the approach is. The first dose appointments for the COVID vaccine quadrupled from 1,500 a day to 6,000 a day just hours after the announcement. Sounds like there might be something there that works. Let's take a listen to this clip.
Starting January 18th, Quebec will require a vaccine passport to enter all liquor and cannabis stores in an effort to keep Omicron from spreading. First dose appointments have now increased from 1,500 per day to 6,000.
Okay, America, let's get to work, right? Let's do what's necessary. I mean, this is innovative, this is smart, it makes sense, and it's effective. Do it here in the United States of America. But you know why they won't do it here in the United States of America? Because if there is a bastion of hope on the face of this planet for the greedy vulture capitalists, it is the United States of America. It is a city that shineth on the hill for the greedy bastards who would sit there and watch you die and your children die of COVID-19 just so that they can get a quarterly profit margin. So you can't do that kind of stuff just anywhere around the globe. You can't exploit people who are struggling with cancer and diabetes with a for-profit healthcare center. That doesn't just happen anywhere in the world, right? You can't just exploit people for student loan debt. That just doesn't happen everywhere around the world. And you can't simply get away with shoving your people back to work despite being in a plague, in a once-in-a-century plague. You can't get away with that everywhere in the world. You know where you can get away with that? The United States of America. And you know why? Because the United States of America is more committed to the profit margins of our oligarchs than they are your life. But one thing good about this is the way that it has divided the Republican Party, because they really did not expect, nor did I, to be quite honest with you, Donald Trump to do the right thing for once in his life. For once in his useful life, Donald Trump has done the right thing, and he's come down on the side of the vaccine. He doesn't get any cookies from us, but he does get quite a bit of hatred from his former supporters, one of them being Greg Locke, who I cover on the show pretty regularly because he is a false prophet. He is a man who preaches as if he represents the kingdom of God, and he is closer to the Antichrist than he is a Christian. Anyway, he's turned on Donald Trump, who, by the way, is the only reason this pastor has any credibility, any notoriety. It's because he rode on the coattails of Donald Trump. But watch the divide in the Republican Party that is brewing simply because, well, Donald Trump might be an evil, insidious piece of crap, but he's one that wants you to get vaccinated. Take a listen in to Pastor Greg Locke.
So I'm going to say something. I don't care how ticked off you get. I'm going to say something. Listen to me. Stop. Everybody say stop. Stop. Stop sitting on your butt and waiting for Donald Trump to do something in this nation. Stop it. Stop it. He gave the evangelicals a mighty voice, and I'm glad. Whether he runs or not is on him, not on me. But I'm sick of Trump worship in this church. You hear me? Let me tell you something. He was lied to, and he knows it. And his arrogance won't let him change his mind. I'm telling you right now, on the authority of the Bible, if Donald Trump does not get out in front of this vaccine nonsense, he is going to lose his voter base in the next coming election. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I don't care how mad. Don't come back. I don't care. If you come here because I like Trump, you're in the wrong house anyhow. You better come here because I love Jesus. I ain't playing these games. He needs to quit pushing this mess, because the greatest president that we've ever known is going to be blamed for more deaths than we've ever seen, and his arrogance won't let him see it.
I'm at a loss here, folks. I'm at a loss because Donald Trump is not wild enough for them. Donald Trump is not insane enough for them. Donald Trump, run this man in B-roll for me, Dwayne, because I need people to see. Here's a man, Greg Locke, who made his entire career off of Donald Trump. Fine, cool. A lot of people did that. But now he's attacking Donald Trump because Donald Trump supports the vaccine. And then he wraps it even further in even more biblical language, trying to make people feel as if now the proper thing to do is to reject Trump, not because Trump is a bigot, not because Trump is a fascist. Don't abandon Trump because he is attacked every woman's right to choose in this country by his judicial picks. Never mind all the things that Donald Trump has done. The reason you should turn on Donald Trump is because he supports the vaccine. The one thing that Donald Trump has done correctly, this infidel says that you need to turn on him because he did the one thing right. And he preaches it from the pulpit as though he is ordained by God and he is on the right side of justice. That's the thing. These folks are running around this country as if they are on the right side of history, as if they're on the right side of the moral arc of the universe. And this dovetails back to what I was saying at the beginning, which is when you see evil people prospering, especially when you see them prospering and they're prospering in the name of God, you have to sit back and wonder, now, wait a minute. Something's not right in the universe. There's a gross injustice when the people who are on the throne of this country are the people who really just don't give a damn whether you live or die of COVID-19. They will lie to you with a straight face, and they will say it in the name of Jesus. They would tell you that they're here in the name of the Lord, and they're bringing their diseases. Literally, the track record of colonization throughout world history, they bring a cross, and then they bring death. And we are at the apex of this idiocy. We're at the apex of this period in human history where what is required to maintain this hermetically sealed bubble of ignorance is death. Because for you to be in this club, for you to get into this man's church, not only should you not get the vaccine, there's a whole nother sermon where he preached, don't come in there with a mask. So now you're going into his sanctuary without a mask and without a vaccine. And I promise you, he's not the only one. Driving around the South on any given Sunday, you see these churches are jam-packed and not nary a mask to be seen. And based on their belief system, probably not a vaccine to be seen. I don't think these folks are going to be satisfied until they've killed 1.5 million people here in the United States alone, because we're well over, I think, what are we at now, David? Like 4 or 5 million across the globe. So it's not just the United States of America that's suffering and reeling from our ignorance. It's a global pandemic of ignorance and greed. Now, listen, I've been saying this since day one of this pandemic, back in the days when it was just me. And actually, I had a bigger setup than this, but it was just me. And I'm talking about the truth of the pandemic 2 years ago. We're coming to 2 full years, working on 3 years of a pandemic where the truth has been out there since day one. We know that this country has put profits over people. And on top of that, it uses people like Greg Locke, evangelicals, all of this white supremacist Jesus, and they use it to not only maintain the level of bigotry and just downright racism that's necessary, but they use it to convince you to not get the vaccine and to die. Like, that's where we are, David. We're at the stage.
5 million deaths.
How many on the global stage?
5.5 million.
5.5 million. Meanwhile, David, Africa, the continent, the African Union is begging to purchase the vaccine, right? So on the one hand, you have a global vaccine apartheid system where the global South, if it was not for nations like Cuba, would not have any vaccine because the United States is hoarding it. Now, this is not the fault of morons like Greg Locke, because he's not taking it. At least he's not telling his congregation that he took it. I'm quite sure he took it. This is because the profit motive that is at the core of everything, at the core of this healthcare system. And so we have this idiocy in front of us, Dave, this glaring contradiction, where on the global stage, you have nations and the entire continent of Africa pleading to be able to use their wealth and their money to purchase the vaccine. The United States is hoarding the vaccine, but about a good 30 to 40% of the United States, I don't know, I'm just pulling off the top of my head. If you think about the people you think about the 30% that always support Donald Trump no matter what, you got about the same amount of people who probably think that the vaccine has the mark of the beast in it or something, David. Good morning, man. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm all right. I'm well. I think, well, for one thing, I'm confident that even 5.5 isn't accurate because I know that the numbers in the U.S. aren't accurate, especially when you narrow it down to specific states. There are certain states that either aren't reporting accurately or aren't reporting. And there's countries in the world worse that aren't reporting accurately. We have no idea what's going on in North Korea. Brazil has been anti-science pretty much the whole time. So that figure is definitely Bolsonaro. So the figures are and Russia's grappled with it. So the figures are definitely, and even Iran too, the Middle East. The figures are not accurate. And this is pulling from Google, so they're pulling from the official sources and not probably counting in, the margin and whatnot. But I think that just when we thought that things might, that the final wave was,
we thought we were almost there, man.
We
were almost there.
It's definitely going to be endemic, but I don't know when it's going to be endemic because we just are letting this thing just continue to evolve, and it's not going to stop.
After variant after variant after variant, because we refuse to slow down just one Like, here's the thing, and we're going to go to a quick break. On the Clock is coming up next. And at 9 o'clock, Rebecca Zora is joining us as well for Like It or Not. One of the things that frustrates me about this, David, is that the billionaires have made the biggest profits they've ever seen throughout the pandemic. Okay, fine. That's a normal thing. Had they just allowed, and I say they, the billionaires, because they're the ones who prevented us from staying on lockdown more than like a day. I think we locked down for a week in this country. Had they allowed us, because they are the ones in charge, not our politicians. Had they allowed us to lock down for 2 months, they still would have made the most profits that they have ever seen in their lifetime. They still would have broken all the records. Elon Musk still would have been the richest man in the world. Delta Airlines still would have been making the money that they're making, but that was not enough. And so now we're in a situation where, well, we hope that it does become endemic one day. Right? We hope that we can transition from this pandemic stage where it's a novel virus and so many people are dying. We hope that we can get to some normalcy, but we could have got there already if not for these greedy corporations and billionaires who refuse to let this country shut down for more than a week when we should have shut down for a good quarter. Anyway, let's go to break. When we come back on the clock right after this, we'll be back with more on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show.
I could really use a change of scenery. Yeah. Everybody smoking all the greenery. Yeah. Close the match 'cause they were handed down to me. But I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse, I could be a hater like you. It could all be worse. Pills to make the man, but that poison's gonna kill you. From the inside out, so right now, say it with your chest now, say it with your chest now. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it out. It's your time. Oh. Cheers to all the haters, 'cause you proved to me that rising to the top was my destiny. And you can see whatever from behind me, but I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse, I could be a hater like you. It could all be worse. Clothes to make the man, but that poison's gonna kill you. From the inside out, it's time to say it with your chest now, say it with your chest now. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it out. It's your time. Oh, if you're on the bus, say yeah. If you're on the train, say yeah. If you gotta walk, say yeah. Everybody's going somewhere. Young or old, I really don't care. Life has never really been fair. So put your fist up in the air. Say yeah. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show, January 11th, 2022. Coming up at 9:15, we will be speaking with Olurin. She's a public defender from New York, and she is on the front line of what's happening at Rikers. And she's also on the front line of what's happening in the school to prison pipeline. We'll be discussing that and so much more during the Like It or Not segment. But first, we're on the clock with investigative journalist Georgia Ford.
This morning, we take a look at equity in education. As the achievement gap continues to persist, we turn to Florida, where Governor DeSantis is making some decisions, Ben, that are not necessarily helping children of color. And this is significant because that achievement gap has been something that has existed in this country, I want to say for decades, if not since its inception. And so while we would hope our politicians, our community leaders are advocating for different measures, resources to be deployed that would help eliminate that achievement gap, it feels as though, specifically in Florida, they're doing quite the opposite.
Absolutely. Good morning, Georgia. Ron DeSantis is, I don't quite have the name or the word to describe him. He is simultaneously buffoonish, but very, very calculated in how he approaches his position as governor of the state of Florida. In this next clip, you're going to see him express that it is an issue of liberal educators who are teaching kids to hate this country. And the context is within the critical race theory discussion that we've been talking about for some time now. And that's been the number one thing that Republicans want us to be afraid of. And that's basically learning about what this country did to Black people in this country. That said, let's take a listen into Ron DeSantis as he explains how any random parent will be able to inspect curriculum and sue these schools who are already strapped for resources. Take a listen in.
Political agenda is they want these kids to hate this country. They want them to reject our founding, our institutions, and they want to replace that with their leftist ideology, which would obviously be disastrous for this country's future. So the stakes are very high on that. But there's a problem when you can say it, you can't do it. But what if they defy you? What if they're doing it? And so what we're going to be doing in this upcoming legislative session, we're going to give parents the ability to go in and get legal relief if they're not following our state standards with respect to history and government. And I think empowering parents to be involved, making sure parents have a right to inspect the curriculum. And it's not just about critical race theory. I mean, there's a lot of other inappropriate content that can be smuggled in by public schools. And in some parts of the country have it way worse than Florida in that regard. So parents, this idea of parents don't have a right to be involved.
And that's what he's trying to call forth an army of parents to go after teachers who, and honestly, Georgia, at the end of the day, it really can boil down to something as simple as a parent not liking a teacher and then instituting one of these lawsuits. So as you stated at the beginning, Ron DeSantis is really striking at the heart of what's in the best interest for our children.
You know, think about this, Ben. What was the name of your favorite teacher when you went to school?
The first one that comes to mind is Miss Hobbs.
Miss Hobbs. Imagine
second grade.
Imagine Miss Hobbs being taken to court, being sued by Karen herself, simply because Miss Hobbs is good with the Black kids. Imagine that, because to me, I mean, when you take away the veil, when you really look at what is behind this, Governor DeSantis he's guising this bill saying, oh, liberal educators can be punished. Liberal educators can be sued. They're teaching our children how to hate our country. You're opening up the door for a class of people, educators who are already overworked and underpaid. Right. And now you're saying that lawsuits can be brought forth against them. Are the schools going to provide insurance? Are the schools going to provide legal aid? Because think about Miss Hobbs. Did she really earn enough money to be able to legally defend herself?
That's right.
Because she was the student that was providing the extra attention or care or compassion to students. And specifically, it sounds like students of color. But now teachers like her, teachers like Mr. O'Neill, the teacher who taught me how to balance a checkbook, even though that wasn't a part of the curriculum. Oh, no, he's going off of the approved curriculum, teaching kids things other than what's on the curriculum. Let's sue him.
That's right.
Now that's what's going to happen. That we're going to see a whole new wave of Karens who are going to feel empowered that they can come after educators, whether it's because they don't agree with what they're teaching in the class, whether it's because they don't like them, simply as you pointed out earlier.
That's right. That's right. And the answer is no. I mean, I taught for quite a few years before this, and I stopped teaching because the pay was not commensurate with the amount of labor. It was a mathematical calculation for me. The amount of hours that we had to spend as teachers beyond the 9 to 5 or whatever our shift was for our grade. Teachers don't make enough money to handle lawsuits. They barely make enough money to do what they're currently doing and keep their lights on. And that's exactly what Ron DeSantis is counting on here. He's counting on teachers being so intimidated. It's called the chilling effect. He wants the chilling effect to be so intimidating that teachers would never think about teaching something other than Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492.
Well, and really, what is this response to? This is a response to the controversy surrounding CRT. And this is a response not to the needs of the children and the students or the parents. This is a response to uphold white supremacy.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And what they're going to be able to do is to tie this bigotry to whatever other ignorant thing they need to accomplish, right? They're going to tie this attack against critical race theory to attacking mask mandates. The same people who show up at the school board meetings and yelling into the microphone about mask mandates and about the vaccine not happening or coming to the schools, those are the same people who are going to show up to the classrooms and to sue these parents, because they're all the same group of people who don't listen to reason and logic, but they instead listen to this oath and listen to the bigotry that's necessary to protect, like you said, white supremacy in this country.
You know, but we shouldn't be surprised. DeSantis is the same governor who was selling merchandise on his website mocking the pandemic. DeSantis has also had a number of other bills that he has pushed forward that have not resulted in equitable outcomes for communities of color. So we shouldn't be surprised. But, you know, what we should take note of is the caucasity that he has to attack our educators and to try to coin some of them as liberal and to now take this divide that we've seen across our nation to take this divide even further and deeper into our school systems. What we need to be worried about is deploying resources so that our children are getting adequate education. What we need to be worried about in our school systems is making sure that we are combating the achievement gap. That's what we should be looking at. We should be looking at the graduation rate, if anything, and asking ourselves, how can we ensure that our children are making it across the finish line and being teed up to go on to further their education in college? I mean, if we have the resources to sit here and come up with legislation to allow our educators to be sued, then damn it, I think we should have some resources to start putting towards tuition for that first year of college. It just, to me, it's frustrating to see that this politician specifically is using his time, his political platform, and taxpayer dollars.
That's right.
To do this. Yeah. But, that's just my thought on this. Ben, do we have the number for Collins this morning? I'd love to hear what our audience is thinking, especially if you're a parent. What has your experience been in the school systems? And do you think that we should move our education system to a place where educators can be sued?
Yeah, absolutely. The phone line is 301-715-8592. Again, 301-715-8592 if you want to join the conversation. In Georgia, my experience is I had to pull my kids. I'm homeschooling my kids right now, me and my wife, because of many things, primarily the pandemic. But now as I sit back and I look at what has happened in the last 2 years of this pandemic, I really do look at it in terms of, why did I let this school system educate my children in the first place? Now, I know the answer is it's public school, it's free, and it's all those things. We couldn't afford private school. It's convenient. Mm-hmm. It's all of those things. But sitting on this side of the pandemic and looking at how they treated teachers, how they treated our kids, and now how they're treating just education itself. They are literally trying to rewrite history here and keep our history from being told. So we would love to hear from you in the audience. 301-715-8592. Georgia, how is schooling going for you through the pandemic and this entire process for you?
Well, we only have one child that's school age. The other two are still preschool. But my 13-year-old, she is dealing with, I think, the typical things that 13-year-olds deal with socially. But from an education standpoint, there has been incidences here, and we've talked about this on the show, where a lot of the schools have had to be confronted with the use of the N-word and other racist acts by students. And so, she's dealt with that within her school, and we've had to have conversations surrounding that and how to appropriately respond to something like that, even if it means maybe not doing the typical thing that teachers would want you to do, but standing up for yourself. That's right. And the reality is I never expected public schools to teach my children about their Blackness.
That's right.
I never expected the schools to give my children the books that were given to me, because the books that were given to me, I had a teacher who handed me some books and was like, if you want to read these, you definitely should. And one of them was The Triangular Trade, which talked about how slaves were traded in this country. And that's not something that you're ever taught in public curriculum, but it was very informative and it was based on facts. And it made me truly understand how our country got to where we are today, That's right. And so I just can't imagine a lawsuit being brought forth against that teacher for sharing information about my identity, about who I am, about the truth about this nation. And so again, for those of you interested in chiming in, do you think we should move to a place where teachers can be sued if parents feel like educators are being too liberal? We'd love to hear from you.
We have 4 callers.
All right. Who do we have up first? Caller, you are live on the air. Give us your name and your comment and your question.
Oh.
That's you, caller. Hey. You're live on the air.
Is that me? Hello?
That's you. Good morning. What's your name?
Kristen from Tennessee.
Kristen from Tennessee.
Good morning.
What's on your mind?
Hey, so about the whole suing schools, I think that's obviously a bad idea. And I'm from Tennessee, and our legislator has been pumping out all these bills that are affecting public schools. And it seems to me that they are just doing everything they can to end public schools. And they've been trying, the GOP's been trying this forever. It's like go to charter schools and in private schools, and it's just awful.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for that call. Georgia, that is something I honestly, as a teacher, I taught at a regular public school, and I taught at a couple of charter schools, and you can see the redirection of resources from public schools to charter schools. But a lot of times, some of those charter schools are struggling themselves. You want to keep pushing through. Next caller, David, who do we have next?
Dwayne, do we have the next caller ready yet?
All right. Tell you what, we'll give them a second. While we switch out our callers, I do want to go to the other side of this, Georgia, for 1 second. And there's a couple of tweets that we'll get to after this next caller that really outlines it's more than just critical race theory that they're attacking here, right? They're going for the whole progressive ideology, the idea that anything about the environment, they're going against green, renewable energy education. They're trying to really undercut every bit of progress they can. So we'll get to those tweets in a minute. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Honored to be on the show with you, Ben. My name is Rob, calling from D.C. I'm a child of educators. My parents were teachers. Vice principals, and my mother even started early childhood education in Washington, D.C. So I have a strong, interest in education. The concept that they're proposing is nonsensical from the simple standpoint that you have how many parents involved in a school. You're telling me you're going to get hundreds of parents to come to a consensus on a curriculum, and then what are their backgrounds? So, I mean, the concept is nonsensical to even begin with. And again, as a child of educators, it's not even possible. I've seen it. I've been in the classrooms. I know how much teachers invest in just coming up with supplies for kids. So the concept of suing student teachers is ridiculous. But the concept of having parents weigh in on curriculums, you don't write the curriculum, go to a private school that has a curriculum that you love. Leave public schools, have a standard of education, and go with it.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much for your call this morning.
Thank you. Have a great day.
No, he's spot on, Georgia. What it is, even hearing you pose the question, right, made me feel the way the caller just felt.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, we can't be surprised. This is DeSantis, but for the sake of broader society and respecting the fact that we all have different opinions. I do think that it's important to say, okay, well, who does this serve? Who are we serving? And to get a poll, especially of our community here. And that's why it's so important to hear from you all of like, what are your thoughts on this? How are you seeing this? What has your experience been? Are there incidences or experiences where something like this might make sense? To me, I don't see it. And Ben, I know your experience doesn't match up with this being something that would be productive. But then how does somebody like DeSantis get into the position that he is in? Is Florida that much different? Is the community he's serving that much different? That they really do feel like this would be beneficial, that this would help advance their students' education? Or is this a matter of legislation that would help uphold white supremacy?
So before we go to the next caller, and I think Ben is coming back in a moment, I wanted to go, and Ben might actually be back with us now, so we can probably go to at least one or two of the tweets on Mississippi just to kind of put that into the conversation, because what they're doing down there is just, is following in pattern. Ben, do you want to read them more? Yeah.
I'm back, and apologies to everyone for that. It is a Twitter thread that we saw last night that I think actually kind of puts a nice pin focus on where we need to drill down from Black Poe. a whole bunch of numbers. You know how these usernames goes. But this is what they said on Twitter. They said in Mississippi, the whitewashing of history is happening in real time. The Mississippi Department of Education is proposing some changes to the social studies curriculum, and it really isn't being talked about enough. I've gone through the proposed changes, and here are some of the highlights. So this is what's happening in the curriculum in Mississippi. In kindergarten, no more defining rights and responsibilities of citizens. Just define what a citizen is. Not that you have rights and the responsibilities, but that you are a citizen of the United States. Instead of recognize ways people celebrate their diverse cultural heritage, the proposal says to identify types of diversity in the classroom. I want to keep going. Just one more, and then we'll take the whatever callers we have left. They said, explain why rules, more added objectives. Explain why rules should be followed. Recognize that leaders and authority figures establish rules to provide order, security, and safety. Explain that money is earned through work. Georgia, it's not just the critical race theory. It's not just the whitewashing of racism and white supremacy and slavery. They're going for the full democratic experiment. They're trying to instill into our kids' minds that fascism and authoritarianism and complete and total totalitarianism and control over your lives is okay. So I think they're starting with critical race theory, but they're going all the way to undermine democracy.
You know, and if it wasn't for corruption, then maybe we would be able to trust that political leaders really do have our best interest at heart. But I mean, when you look at the track record of this country, every time you take back the veil, it seems as though most of our political leaders lack integrity. So how can we blindly trust those who have not been doing what is best for us? Maybe, you know, in public, they put on a good show, but behind closed doors, we continuously see the outcomes that are being produced by their decisions. And when you look at all of the disparities, they're not equitable outcomes. This isn't just by chance. You know, and so I guess that's why, for me, this conversation about DeSantis is important. Who is he serving? Is this really something he's bringing forth because his constituents asked for it? Is this something he's bringing forth because he truly feels like it's going to be what's best for the students in his district? Or is this something that he's doing simply to uphold white supremacy?
That's right.
So
That's right.
Our last caller, but not to cut you off, the last caller for this morning will be Roller Dragon whenever you guys are ready.
Okay. Thank you, David. Roller Dragon, you're live on the air. What is your name? We have your name. What's on your mind?
Okay. Well, it looks like the headphones aren't going to work. Hey, what's
we
going
can hear
on,
you loud
guys?
and clear.
This is Roller Dragon. How
are you, man? What's on your mind?
I'm literally amazed at the tweets that you just uncovered right there, because it solidified something in my head that really I didn't expect them to act on so quickly. The Republican Party and the right and the fascistic evangelical party have realized something. They can't change adults. They have to start young. They are taking it from base principles and trying to build this society from the ground up. This has got to be stopped. I don't know how. Absolutely. I don't know what devices we can use or what type of legislation we can pass. Obviously, we've seen that legislation does absolutely jack all for what we needed to do. We need something concrete that's going to stop this, because when you start playing with the truth of history, you end up in places like we are now.
Yeah.
And right now, we are in a very dangerous spot. Think about this. And I hate making these comparisons every time I freaking call. When you look at Germany and what Hitler did with the youth of that country, and from then up to completely bamboozle an entire population about a false religion, a false background and a false backstory, and how successful he was at doing it, to the point where they invaded the rest of the world. That's what these totalitarians want. They want that power. Don't know why.
Roller Dragon, thank you so much for that call. Georgia, that part.
You're welcome.
That part that he just, thanks so much, man. That part that you just said, that he just said about building something on a false religion, false backstory. That's the thing. History is backstory, Georgia, and they are trying to change the backstory so that there'll be a brand new generation of people who are brought up on the lies of their false backstory, of the false history, and they are trained and groomed to be good little citizens in their totalitarian society. That's what they want. Georgia, it's in your hands.
And even that by itself, it feels, although, when you think about the saying, history repeats itself. Mm-hmm. I mean, they already tried to do this. When I took American history in high school, there was a very, very short section on slavery, and the information that the public schools did share with us about slavery was grossly inaccurate. I mean, they tried to teach us that slaves typically were not beaten because they were considered assets. They were considered pieces of property.
That's right.
And so
if you wouldn't want to damage your property was the argument.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember I was a straight A student. I graduated top 20% of my class. But one day when I did get in trouble, it was the day that came up in American history. And I was outraged and ended up walking out class and almost got kicked out of AP English because I wasn't having it. It was a lie, And so the reality of it is, if you look at who created that textbook, who authored that textbook, who is trying to put forth this narrative, it was a white man in that instance. And so there's been reports of similar curriculum being taught across the country. So it's not necessarily a new idea to try and erase history. But what I do think, Ben, is that generation who was taught that watered down version of slavery, right? We're grown now and they see it didn't work.
That's right.
And so now they have to do a more effective job. They have to wash it again, because they didn't wash it enough. They, I guess, maybe decided, let's keep a little, let's try to give them just, a small, but now it feels like they're trying to remove everything that would give any historical context about what happened to Black people in this country. And if you ask me, because if there's any evidence that Black people in this country deserve reparations, well, then eventually somebody has to pay that bill. Eventually. Or at least we have a case that we can keep making for that. But if they erase the evidence, if they erase the history, how do your children's children advocate for reparations?
That's right.
How do they advocate for it?
That's the entire plan right there, Georgia, is to they're willing to wait. I'll put it like this. If we look and see how methodical and how patient they were executing their 50-year plan to undo Roe versus Wade, right? They took 50 years to be in the position that they're in now to strike at the core of Roe versus Wade. What's another 50 years to strike at the entire concept of democracy and freedom in the first place, right? I believe that's what they're trying to cut to. And they know they could bigot their way right into fascism.
Well, this has been a very powerful conversation, and I want to thank those who called in this morning. If we missed any people who called in this morning, feel free to DM us or leave your comments in the chat. But ultimately, I conclude here, Ben, that DeSantis is not making a decision here in regards to education that serves his constituents. I think he's making a decision based on his own opinions and based on those of his buddies in the GOP who have an agenda.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. And at the end of the day, when this pandemic is all done, and I'm shifting to the pandemic because it's the same type of lies, same type of propaganda, same type of agenda. There's something, there's a force, there's people, there's money at play that's pushing the same fools who want to attack real American history into attacking basic steps to protect ourselves from the pandemic. I believe at the end of all this, we're going to see the invisible hand that has been at play, making sure that these Republican governors like Ron DeSantis do everything they can to maximize the number of deaths from COVID-19 while they simultaneously attack critical race theory.
That's right. Well, Ben, what's coming up on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show?
Coming up next, we have, like it or not, DJ Exclusive is in the house. Rebecca Zor is coming in, and we're going to be joined by public defender Olurin from New York City. We're going to be talking about Rikers and the school to prison pipeline. That's all coming up next on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show.
Y'all know the voice, y'all know the sound. Good morning, everybody. It's your boy, man, Williams, DJ Good morning, y'all.
I'm not sure I understand it, but everything seems brighter now than before. I don't know why I feel this way, but every time I hear your name, all my worries disappear, yeah. It's all because of you. I feel the way I do. You make my dreams come true, yeah. It's all because of you, because of you. And I don't fall in love so easily, 'cause I don't wear my heart up on my sleeve.
Everybody, here I am, here I go. I missed y'all too.
Good morning. Feel the same, but every time I hear your name,
make sure y'all stay tuned.
My worries disappear. It's all because
shout out to everybody in our chat rooms wherever you are streaming from this morning.
I feel the way I do. You make my dreams come true.
Good morning, Mama and Daddy. I see y'all in the chat room this morning. Good morning, y'all. Shout out to Georgia Boy.
Because of you.
Esther Rocha, good morning. Courtney, good morning to you. Juanita and a heart. Blue bird on my shoulder. Alicia. Promises manifest the same, right? Mark S, what's going on, brother? Laura Estrada, good morning. KT Shock, good morning. Laura Estrada. Adrian, good morning. Whitney Woods, Amber Layla, good morning to you. Six Dragon Daddy, what's going on, brother? Big City Socialist, Cypress. Brother Tiger, what's going on? Iris, good morning. Kareem. Roller Dragon, thank you for calling in this morning. Good morning to you. Lunch break, hot take, good morning. It's New Room, good morning to you. That's right, Olay is coming up next, so make sure y'all stay tuned, man. Y'all don't want to miss this. Lois, good morning to you. Shout out brother Chuck Diesel, man. Ryan, good morning to you as well.
I could really use a change of scenery.
Infinite content, what's going on with us?
Everybody's smoking all the greenery.
Daniel Perez, good morning. Angela Newman, what's going on, Angela?
I'm still fly, I know.
Al Boogle. What's up, Al?
I'm still fly, let's go.
Cayman, good morning. Iris Jones, Demon Yama Mama, Stu Dragon, good morning.
Supposed to make the man, but that poison's gonna chew you from the inside.
Party Lady, good morning to you.
So right now, say it with your chest now. Say it with your chest now. I'm free.
Iris Jones, you got this, sister. Iris Jones, you got this.
Here and now, it's my time to run it out.
Brother Bryce, what's going on? Angela Newman, I heart you too.
I'm free. Can't nobody take me. Here and now, it's my time to run it out. It's my time. It's my time. It's my time to run it out. It's your time. Oh. Cheers to all the haters, cause you proved to me that rising to the top was my destiny. And you can see whatever from behind me, but I'm still
Shout out Brother Latif in the building. Good morning, brother.
I'm still
Shout out Benjamin Dixon. We had that man phone buzzing and going the hell off while he's trying to talk on the show. I thought man, we still know you big head ass. Good morning, Brother B.
Close to make the man, but that poison's gonna kill you.
Benny Epson, good morning to you.
From the inside out, it's time to say it with your chest now. Say it with your chest now. I'm young, I'm free. Can't nobody take me here.
And a heart. Good morning,
now, it's my time to run it out.
Brother, go cool.
It's my time to run it out. I'm young, I'm free. Can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out.
Brother Tyler, good morning, Tyler.
It's my time to
Levi, good morning.
It's your time. Oh, if you're on the bus, say yeah. If you're on the train, say yeah. If you got a
what's going on, old hippie?
Everybody's going somewhere. Young or old, I really don't care. Life has never really been fair.
Brother Bryce, we praying for you, bro. We got you, man. Brother Bryce, y'all.
I'm young, I'm free. Can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time. It's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free. Can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out.
Don't FedEx them. I'll never get it.
It's my time to ride it out.
Miss Newell, good morning to you.
It's your time. Oh.
Rasheed Knowles, good morning.
Tell him I need my money right now. Probably the juice they stole out my crown. Sorry to tell you, I know my value. I'm gonna recoup it, but don't waste my energy, my energy. I don't got much, don't be wasting all my energy. Keep it tight, don't let nobody get close to me. My heart is right, don't question my integrity. No, I thought we would be just fine, and I thought your heart was like mine, but let me find out you've been going around throwing shots, running plots. Come on, man, tryna block my blessings, but no need for comparisons. What's from me won't be from me. Yeah, I'ma go through just to grow.
Okay, you want the song or you want another
Make
song?
what you've been saying about me.
Jeremy Dwayne, you want the song or you want another song?
Tell him I need my money right now. Brought me the juice, they stole out my crown. Sorry to tell you, I know my value. I'm gonna recoup it. Don't waste my loyalty, my loyalty. I let you in back then because I couldn't see, but now it's clear you ain't ever been true to me. My intuition ain't never lied, I had to leave. Handle your business, do what you think you need to do to get your revenge, but you won't break
Hey, Dwayne, while you working at that, I got a question for you. What happens when you eat aluminum foil? You sheet metal.
I'ma go through just to grow through. Baby, what you owe me for, I make what you've been saying about me true. Tell them I need my money.
Oh, now I can't wait. Okay. Y'all know what time it is. Let me go ahead and play this song, because now I'm ready to see what Rebecca got on. Because there's going crazy in the background, y'all. I don't know what Rebecca got on. Now I got to wait to see. Elizabeth Lungs, good morning. Shelby Hall, Industrial Arts, what's going on? Good morning. Q, you might want to turn on the show for this one. We about to see what Rebecca got on. She over here doing the damn thing. We about to see. Y'all know what time it is, man. It's time.
Y'all know what time it is. Good morning.
For the sleeves.
Get your coffee, your tea, your drink, whatever it is you need. It's time for my government show. 9 a.m. to 10:30, yeah. Like it or not, is on your channel.
Good morning, brother.
Politics and culture is we change scan like we're supposed to, yeah. Interviews and all the news, we get to choose what gets the views. Like it or not, with Queen Azure, it's starting now, so stick around.
Like it or not, it's going down. Like it or not, y'all stick around. It's coming through.
Looking like one of the doo-wop sisters.
You know she had a good story for you. Oh, Benjamin, that's my dog. This is his show. He's a politics bro.
Yes. Somebody brought this to my attention, and I said I was going to do it. I was going to juxtapose the song, but it sounds like Aaliyah one in a million. And I'm like, damn, it sure do.
Y'all know who I am. Is a one in a
stay dropping them jams.
Like it or not.
Hollywood, good morning.
It's going down.
That's what I did right there, Jam.
Like it or not. Y'all stick around. Oh, like it or not, it's starting now. Like it or not,
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, people. Girl, you got money.
Good morning.
Bitch,
Let's
for
see.
the awards. She got money.
Good morning.
Sorry, I just got a notification that my credit score went up 10 points.
My bad. Sorry, I had to take everybody else off the screen so that we could see Rebecca in all her glory.
True. Right. Yeah, Rebecca.
Come on, Fur. You need to stand up and walk. Rebecca, get up and walk. Rebecca, get up and walk.
Y'all don't want me to get up and walk. Give him looks.
Rebecca, yes, get up and walk.
She about to do it, though. She about to do it.
You better
strike, girl.
Frederick, give me my coffee, Frederick. Look like a rich white woman.
Listen.
Okay. All right. Let's skip the formalities. Welcome to Like It or Not. Free to tell the truth. Rebecca
and
Azor
not
just
care
won.
who doesn't like it. Hey, Olay.
I was going to cut you off to let everybody know that and then obviously we have our sister Olay Olurin on the show on the screen. Olay, thank you so much for joining us. I do want to get to some serious stuff about Rikers and all the important stuff that we talk about, but our sis came on the show with a whole fur because she won last night. Rebecca, give me the title of the award that you won, and congratulations, sister. Give it in the chat room. Put some claps up, some lions up.
Wait a minute.
Sister
Wait a
Rebecca
minute.
Azor. Uh-oh. I just realized what was coming.
It was so delayed. say, but it was necessary. But I just want to thank
the Academy.
I just want to thank you guys for making me the Digital Haitian Creative Podcast of the Year award winner for 2021 for Haitians Who Blog, which is a big deal. So it's great to represent my community. Honestly, been doing this for God knows how many years. Got some awards, but this one means a lot to me because I really, 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 really love that I can represent my Haitians in politics, right? And having a conversation and being real as hell, just being around a lot of people who are real as hell, but be able to tell the stories and for them to understand it, not only right here in the U.S., you guys, but in Port-au-Prince and Jérémy and Gonaïve and Okap and Haiti. And those people will contact me all the time, sending me voice notes on the Facebook, okay? I don't understand, you know what I'm saying? But they'll contact me all the time and tell me how much I'm a voice for them. They'll contact me on Instagram and they'll send me DMs and let me know. And for me to be a part of that and for me to be able to shine a light on them and us, that is amazing to me. So I'm happy. I'm blessed. I'm happy. I'm thankful. And I just want to thank you guys, the supporters, because if it wasn't for you out there really voting for me, I really love you guys. I love all of you guys who love me back. I love you guys right here on our family, on our show. I love best friend to the show, Olay. Thank you so much. I love all y'all for real. I love y'all though.
Olay,
congratulations, sister.
Thank you.
I want to, Rebecca, listen, I actually want to, I want to thank the audience too, because y'all really, I love being able to see our team supported by our audience. That to me is a beautiful thing. So thank you all.
They came out in the heat of the night. Okay, I was just like, guys, can you vote for me? They was like, hell yeah, Rebecca. Let me tell you, you're the best to ever do it. Rebecca, we gonna vote. I'm like, I
put my girl on my story too. I told him
Olay but Olay is a celebrity. So So when she posts, it's like, what's up? Make sure you vote for my girl. And they all like, you know her? Yes, I know her. Never met her in the physical, but that is my best friend in this whole world right now.
That's my girl. I was first to comment. I told Rebecca when I was like,
hey, Dwayne, if you want, you can just take me you can take me and Bubba off the screen if you want.
Seriously, Olay, when I come to New York, I've told you already, we're going to hit the streets and something sexy and go have some good drinks
and go out.
Yes, that's exactly what we're going to do. That's exactly
So Olay, there's a whole lot that is happening, and I don't want to necessarily direct the conversation completely. I want you guys to be free and talk about.
I'll tell y'all how I got here, and then that's how it started. That I messaged Ben.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. No, it was. Go ahead.
I spend my every day being an outraged, educated Black person, right? Just every day trying to learn more and being more upset. So over the holidays, I didn't even go home. So I'm reading. I'm reviewing discovery on my cases. So I get this case I'm reviewing. It's like a teenage kid accused of having a fight at school, like a school fight. I'm like, why is this in front of me? Why is this in criminal court? I look at it, I'm like, this is just a regular children having a fight. So then from there, doing my research, I review the high school. I look up the high school, and it's like a high school now highly populated by Black and people of color, right? Like Black and Latino people present day. But when I go in the archives and I start looking at the articles and everything that's pinned to the Wikipedia page about it, I'm finding that this is a school that's an all-white school in like 1915, right? This is a very, very white school. And by like the 1960s, they start introducing Black people in the school, and all hell breaks loose, right? All the articles in the New York Times are white students getting guns, confronting them, fighting them, scaring them off, doing things like this for tens and tens of years, right? This goes on for a while. And, every New York Times article at one point in time, a Black kid is even shot at the school by these white students, right? Literally shoot him. And, and the articles in the New York Times are like, oh, Negroes upset or Negroes confronted. You know what I mean? The articles are all framed around the response to the Black students being upset. And I start looking, right? And I'm like, so for tens and tens of years, this is an extremely white school. And once Black students are introduced even into the school, into the neighborhood, they're forced to deal with all kind of violence at the school. The school's been like this. This is what they're dealing with. And then by the time the school is highly Black, or highly people of color, because, white flight, now all of a sudden you insert police into the schools, you insert all these devices. And now present day, here I am representing teenage children accused of crime at this school. But that wasn't even the characterization. You weren't criminalizing these students when it was white kids literally shooting Black students at this school. But now in 2021, I'm supposed to have to defend a teenager. And then that just brought me down the school to prison pipeline rabbit hole, right? There are tens and tens and tens of thousands of children arrested and incarcerated in America. As young as 6 years old, under 10 years old. Over
No, wait. You can't breathe. Ooh. In 6-year-olds incarcerated? Incarcerated. Arresting children for school fights. And we need to understand is these things are intentional. All of this is set up very, very deliberately. It's our schools. That's where they put it. No one else has heard of a scenario. How many white movies do you watch? Teenage shows, all kinds of shows, movies where children are running amok, right? They're running amok. They're doing foolishness. They're throwing underage parties. They're getting into fights. And it's cute, quirky, young material that you're watching. But why is it that the police have to be involved? Why are our kids getting arrested for things that would be detention, for disciplinary things, for regular interactions? Why are they arrested? Why can't you punish a child? I went to school, all right? And I have gone in the face of more than a few children in my day. I have wanted to fight people. No one has ever decided, hey, this person needs the police. You know what I mean? This person needs the juvenile center. Because what happens is, if you're arresting children, if you are arresting children, please think about this. The other day I tweeted that the school to prison pipeline is a real thing, that over 30,000 children were arrested or incarcerated between around 2018. And people started responding with their stories. They started talking about the children in their lives that have been arrested, the little boys they know, or when that's happened to them. That's insane, right? That's insane that's even a narrative, that's even experienced. Because what happens, right? Grown adults go with the psychological fallout of being criminalized, right? People are arrested. I can't tell you how many times I've been talking to somebody that's been arrested, and I have to explain to them, you're not a criminal. You don't have to feel differently about yourself. This hasn't changed who you are. This doesn't have to be this kind of impediment to your life. That's hard to psychologically reconcile as an adult who's lived an entire life where they weren't a criminal or they weren't criminalized, right? Imagine you're a child. Imagine you're a kid, and from the minute you're 6, you're 10, people are telling you need to go to jail, you're bad, there's no other way to deal with you. What happens then? What path does it determine? It's no coincidence that we have our children and our students being subjected to this. They are subjected to the police in schools. They're subjected to police brutality on the streets. And then we wonder why, the average Black man between 18 to 29 years old is arrested or incarcerated at some point. Why? They're being set up for this. They're being set up for failure. And it's very clear. And I just felt like, you know what, I have to start talking about these things, because a lot of the things I think happen in the American system that continue to go is because they do a deliberate disservice to everybody by not telling them. That's why we don't see it in the schools. That's why it's not in the books. That's why they keep trying to ban all of the books. They try to ban all of the speakers, because they don't want people to know. Because if people know, people will want to put a stop to it. People will be outraged, but they don't know. People do not realize, hey, these schools are filled with the police. And it's also no coincidence that New York City itself has the most segregated schools in the country. We have the most segregated schools in the country. And then all the Black schools, the schools where Black students and people of color, they have police in the schools. Why is that? So, that's on purpose.
That was how I messaged Ben.
Girl, she just so that's how you message Ben. Look, because I was like, girl, because the thing is, Olay is like me. When we're very passionate about the topic, we're going to be here for 5 hours. If you don't stop us, we're going to try to stop ourselves. But we really ain't going to finish the story because we got so much more left to go. So, but that's how she met Ben. But it's, you said something, Ben, and that alerted you as well. You've been on our show and you talked so much about, teenagers who've been handcuffed and or in jail, or you talked about how Rikers' situation is with just all different kinds of people in the worst conditions. We're talking about how policing in schools, like this is your focus, and I love that. But it's interesting enough when you talk about kids, like just kids as young as 5. I remember reading in the New York Times about a little girl, and I remember we covered it on here. This is vintage stories. But we covered it on here long ago. And there was like a 6-year-old girl. We were talking about policing and how policing is trash, and how, 13, because we talked about how that 6-year-old was in the middle of a courtroom swinging her little legs and being asked, you know, do you know what you did? And her being so shy and playing with her fingers and just kind of looking down. I think what she did was throw rocks or something and hit a car, you know, some white. And, you know, they literally took this to jail, a baby to jail. And I thought that is ridiculous to me. I read that story over and over. And I said, how is this not something that is on mainstream media, us being outraged at a 6-year-old or a 5 or a 6-year-old, you know.
Because they don't let our kids be kids. Because our kids aren't kids to them. Our kids are not kids to them. And, you know, whenever we have children, whenever something happens to our children, all of a sudden white America acts that they have a different lens that they look through things with. Like all of a sudden their eyes work differently, cameras work differently. Somehow they cannot see our children as children. Tamir Rice wasn't a child to them, right? Stanley Brown Jr. just the other day was not a child to them. Our children in court, Phantom Billy, who was killed the other day, was not a child to them. They don't see our children as children. For whatever reason, somehow our children transform to big, grown, scary adults because they never allow us to be kids, because they don't allow us to be human.
Wow.
They dehumanize us from the very jump. We're never individuals. And that's why it all becomes a story of how they were afraid, they were this. Why can't you see as a child? How come, let me ask you this, how come when they know it's a 17-year-old, right? And I'm not going to talk about him, but how come Rittenhouse is a kid? You're so sympathetic to him because he's a kid. Regardless, we're not going to talk right or wrong. They were able to see him as a child. He is 17. He's a teenager. But when you shoot our 11, 12-year-olds holding toy guns, when our children can't even ride a dirt bike down the street without you chasing them to their deaths, how come they're not kids? How come they're not kids? Why is that? Why is there no stage in Black life that comes with humanity? Why is there no point where we're sympathetic? We're not sympathetic when we're children. We're not sympathetic when we're mothers. We're not sympathetic when we're fathers. We're not sympathetic when we're dead. So when is it?
Nothing.
Damn.
So,
Damn, Olay.
Right.
So I want to add to that though, for your story, so we can complete it, so they know how you met Ben, because that's not only how you jumped into Ben's DM. Why?
That's how I met Ben. That's how that was how I was disturbing Ben over Christmas. Just so you know. I don't even know if Ben originally came at me. That's how
I haven't met Olay either.
Because I'm like, you started the story. I was like, okay, when I first met Ben, that's what it was giving.
No, that's when I first decided to harass Ben to the top of the new year.
Okay, there we go.
Listen, we don't need any mix. Listen, I'm too short for her anyway. Let's not have any confusion now. I jump in her DMs for politics. She jumps into mine for Rikers, and we work. Okay.
There we go. Because I'm like, girl, where did you? Why? How? Who? Because I remember.
Listen, I be upset. I be very, very upset about the reality of what America. I'm telling you, I be upset. People be
at 3 a.m. She's upset.
Well, you and Ben together. You and Ben together.
Yes, I be in court. You and Ben together. People think it's a good day.
Yeah,
and I'm upset. I'm always upset. Because it's just, you know what? You know what it is for me? I think I have a problem living in an America where, you know, we have, on one hand, we have Black people all over the TV, right? We have Megs, we have Beyonce, we have all these different ways. We have us here talking. So there's so many ways to like look past reality and think, okay, look at Black people. We're doing well. We're in these white spaces. We're doing stuff. Things could be so hunky-dory. Like, you could be watching Insecure and think, yeah, look at Black life.
That's right.
That's right. And also look at Black life. You know what I mean? Also look at Black life. That's a problem for me. The idea that 1 second a Black person could be in the middle of Insecure and the next second they're in Fruitville Station, that's an issue for me. Because that's the reality of being Black in America. People can transform their narrative.
Okay, wait, Olay, I got to slow you down. 1 minute you could be in Insecure, and the next minute you could be in what?
Fruitvale Station.
God damn.
And it's true. It's true. How many times you ever been in your car listening to a song you live in? You have the soundtrack of your life movie going, and now all of a sudden the police in your rear view and you're in a different movie. You have different fans. You have different considerations.
Just yesterday.
How many times?
Just yesterday.
Right. How many times you've been texting your Black male friend? He tell you he going somewhere now. He driving now. You're like, hey, let me know when you get home safe. Now you're waiting on that text, right? Now you're nervous.
That's right.
Just last night.
And that. Yes, exactly. That part right there is the part I can't live with. It's not okay for me. I'm like, I go to court every day. It's easy to get disconnected from it. But for me, I'm like, when I go to court and I think to myself, like I'm sitting in court and I'm there and I'm the lawyer and in certain ways that I'm not being criminalized, but I'm looking around in the court, I'm looking around on the walk to the court, and every person that looks like me, everybody that's in the same financial lane of life, everybody that I'm familiar with is heading to the court to be prosecuted. That's a problem for me. You know what I mean? The only black people I see around are either the DA prosecuting people, the police arresting people, or the person in jail. That's not how it should be. And yet it is. And that's a problem for me. And it's just something I can't live with. I cannot live with. It's just not okay. And people turn a blind eye.
I want to ask you about one of the towns that I grew up. Well, I worked in. I was in Boynton Beach.
Grew up everywhere. 10 places.
I don't know. I've been
10
everywhere.
places, child.
Good adjacent.
But there was a young man who was a part of the the Boynton Beach Bulldogs, the football team, the Pee Wee football team there. And I think I heard you mention him. He was 13 years old. Tell us about that story.
Stanley Brown Jr. was a 13-year-old black kid in Boynton Beach, Florida, a beloved, adorable little kid, member of the Boynton Beach Bulldogs, this traveling football and cheerleading team. He was riding his dirt bike. The police decide that they are going to stop and chase this 13-year-old. He's terrified. He has every reason to be terrified. He is a kid. He is black. He is police. He has every reason to be afraid. He's riding his bike. They're chasing after him. He's so scared he crashes and he dies. And listen, this is my problem with when a black person is killed, whether it be by police or just general white supremacists. When a black person is wrongfully killed and injustice becomes this conversation about the individual way we prosecute whoever did this thing. My problem is this: in the time it takes you, in the once in a blue moon that they even bother to prosecute somebody, in the time it takes them to prosecute that person, you know how many other people police have killed? You know how many other black people police have killed? Because we have to address a system in which they are allowed to do it. You know what I mean? I was having this conversation with my friend Masai actually yesterday, and we were talking about the Ahmaud Arbery verdict in relation actually to the Stanley Brown stuff. People will say, "Oh, it's justice. It's justice." Is it? We had to fight them to bring the charges. 2 different prosecutors declined to prosecute that. That's what the video, they knew everything we know. We have to fight them even to get them to do it. And in the course of the time Ahmaud Arbery was killed in 2020, how many black people have died since then off the top of the dome? Breonna Taylor, Rayshard Brooks, George Floyd, countless. Like it continues and continues to happen because we have this system in place. So we need to start addressing and delegitimizing the means in which they do this, right? Because here, why? And this is something Americans have gotten far too accustomed to. And I think I have the additional perspective of not being from here. But why are police stopping and arresting people for traffic violations, things that are not crimes? Why are they criminalizing you for things that are not crimes? Why did you need to stop a 13-year-old child on a bike? Why?
On a bike.
Why did you need to chase him? Why is his fare not registerable to you? Why is that not concerning? How come all these factors and considerations you take into consideration what you're dealing with white people do not seem to matter with us? You care about white people's sensibilities. You care about white people's fare. You care about white people's feelings. You care about how white people's families feel if something happens to them. Why does our humanity not matter as an individual, let alone our families, our communities, our fare? Is that not receivable? You are afraid in a job, allegedly. You are afraid of us in a job that you took, then where you are armed, where you are voluntarily choosing to enter the scenarios because nobody chooses to deal with the police. All right? The police come to you. The police start an interaction. You are afraid, but not the black people that are regularly killed by you, not the black people that have lived in this country and constantly been at the receiving end of violence. We don't get that. We don't get that humanity. We don't get that understanding. We're just supposed to be okay with it, right? We're just supposed to say, oh, something unfortunate happened and business continues, right? You're supposed to be able to kill this 13-year-old kid. You kill Stanley Brown just like you killed Tamir Rice, and it's supposed to be cool, right? We're just supposed to be fine with it. Business should go on as usual. And then when you prosecute one of the 360 different police that kill somebody, then it's justice. It's justice. Is it justice if tomorrow I got to bury someone else? If you lock up the police today that kills this person, but I got to bury somebody else that the police kill every other day after it, is it justice?
That's right. Devontae, what is so many names? Devontae Wright? Who was that was killed? Georgia covered
Dante
it.
Wright.
Dante Wright, not Devontae. Dante Wright killed during the George Floyd, during the Kim Porter trial. I mean, no, killed by Kim Porter during the Derek Chauvin trial. Let me correct myself on
You're
that.
thinking about Devontae
that's
that we
exactly what you're talking about.
interviewed because the guy that was shot 20 times,
what was his last name?
crossing over the jumped the fence, trying to get to his grandma's or mama's. And
what was
his brother that we interviewed. That's what you're thinking about. Yeah. So all of this we done spent the block by millions of times in our lifetime. And every black person that sits here and does this or works in this realm in some kind of way, or even a regular black person who just has to worry about their child or their parents or ourselves being in a predominantly white area, or just going to school, or just walking to school, or just holding a toy gun. All of those things. This is our life daily. So, you being a prosecutor, us having to cover these stories daily, us also being the ones to live this story. I remember in mainstream media, when I worked there, local TV news, let me tell you, they will try to frame, even when I was working in politics, my first job in politics, they would try to force us and frame us or frame the stories to where it was like we just made it popular enough. We just covered it from the popularity, that point of view. And then after that, move it to the side and continue to discuss Donald Trump. Meanwhile, the day before, Donald Trump had these people marching in his name, tearing down monuments, or because the monuments were torn down, marching in his name. But we can't really hone in on that and how racist it was in that time, because we needed to discuss how Donald Trump was not singing the what is that thing that they sing every time they put their Pledge of Allegiance very well.
Oh, the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay.
We needed to focus on that, but we couldn't focus on how them people were doing in Charlottesville. Remember, we couldn't talk about that. And that's problematic.
They always change the narrative.
Yeah, we couldn't talk about Kaepernick kneeling, right? We couldn't talk about that because it was a little bit too black and political. We couldn't go there.
Well, hang on, Rebecca. You forgot the description. You forgot the description. I can't believe you forgot the description. They said it was a little too BET. Well, there exactly.
They said Rebecca was a little too BET. They said I was a little bit too BET for them, and they watched me on mute, and they said I was a little bit too BET for them.
But no. But that's how it. But that's how it goes. But that's how it goes. Listen, I recognize all the time that people who don't like me and media, whatever it is, the minute they see my face on the thumbnail, they get in the comment section. They're like, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, and that's why. The beautiful thing to be able to humanize is recognizing that they are never talking about you as an individual. You know what I mean? What it is it's too black, it's too this, it's too that, because it's you.
And that's all
because
right.
It's you, because it's who you deal with. But America has always been like that. When you think about it, right? Why is it called Black History? Why is it called Black History as opposed to just history? Right? It's the same story. It's the same story at the same time as with the rest of the facts. But
they changed the narrative with Black history, though. They changed the narrative of Black history, just like they tried to make me do with politics, right? My first job. They changed the narrative. In Black history, they want you to think that these, they were just slaves some long time ago. They want you to think that's how long it was, right? Meanwhile, there's people who have family members who are living today who are sharecroppers, and their
Still
parents
alive.
only knew slavery, right? And then, this is just right here up the street, Georgia. There's a place that was just desegregated about 35 years ago. Just 35 years ago.
So,
it was just.
So there was a place that was just desegregated probably about 10 years ago.
You see what I'm saying?
Down South Georgia.
They don't want Black history has to be said Black history because it's Black history is history that is condensed and watered down and redacted and all of those things by the whites. Okay,
they know. I think it's even deeper than that. I think it allows white people, by separating, it allows white people to think they only have to ever be concerned with whiteness. That's something I've observed being in America, right? Like, if you come to another country, I come to America. I'm not from here. I have to learn American customs, right? I know a lot. I know exactly what white people watch and love and all that. I know everything there is to know about white pop culture. I watch everything that they see. But all my white friends don't know nothing about our stuff, right? They'll have the nerve. You play a Whitney Houston song, they have the nerve to look at you confused. You know what I mean? Like, they don't know our things. They make no effort to know our stuff. But that's what I'm saying, because it creates this obligation on the behalf of people of color, on behalf of the other, has to learn about them. It makes them the mainstream, makes them the yardstick, it makes them the metric. That's why everything you ever see is whiteness, and then you have to go look up Black art. You got to go look up Black authors. You got to go look up this. You got to go. It's always taken out whatever, and just removed from a narrative, because it makes it easier to make white people the default. That's what it's really about. It's about making whiteness default, making whiteness, the average, making whiteness superior, and otherizing everything else it is that we have going on. That's what they do.
In America, every single thing. That's why I only knew when I was coming up. And then me being from, being the first generation of immigrants, these people would tell us, because they thought if we walked into the school speaking another language, like saying something, looking some kind of way, of course we would be targeted. And we were. Because I spoke just another language to another friend, they put me in ESOL. And ESOL was a class that was a little, you just didn't speak English at all.
I know.
Yep.
And they also used me, though, to be an interpreter to the new kids that was coming in. I didn't understand it. I'm pretty sure. Like, and I didn't understand it. I'm like, what the hell? And our parents would have to sit us down and tell us, don't go speak that language. Don't go do none of that. And when you go to school, but also it's exactly what you're saying. White supremacy in anything in America was running rampant through education. We see it in policing. We see it in the corporate world. We see it in every single thing in America. They get upset because they separated us, but now we're going to be like, okay, you separated us, but now respect us, right? Black Lives Matter.
And they constantly make blackness a negative thing.
They constantly
make blackness negative. I've noticed it too, especially because like white people are always complimenting me, right? What they think is a compliment, and white people are always in some way trying to give me credit for some, like they always give you a compliment as though they're complimenting you in spite of your blackness. Like look at the way in which, you know what I mean, you made your blackness palatable, or you're in some way this. Like I know a white guy.
Wow, you being the first black. You being the first black.
There's always something. And I had this conversation with a white friend the other day. Actually, I told him, like, I'm an honest person. Y'all know how I go. I don't mince words. So, he's giving me all these compliments, all this, da 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 da. And I was like, why are you under the impression my blackness is something credit me for the ways in which I exist outside of blackness to you or something? You start like deconstructing me in that way. It's always like, he'll say stuff like, oh, they don't realize it, but you're like the smartest person I know. He'll be like,
they're surprised.
It's essentially like, even though I am very clearly a black person, I live a very unadulterated blackness life, right? Y'all see it. I'm giving it up. And they're trying to be like, hey, as black as you be, we still know you're smart, or we still know you're cute. And I'm like, it's not a caveat. It's not a side thing. Like, they can't even fathom that I am okay existing and coming off fully black to you. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm not trying to make it, water it down for you. I don't want you to like it in spite. I'm not trying to make it palatable for you. Like, I'm just trying to be on that type of time, period. Like, they'll ask you things. People, notice it. I always, I recommend books online. Y'all see it. I show art. I do all these different things. All my stuff are black. You know why? Because I'm black, right? Like it's not a concerted effort. I'm surrounded by blackness. My family is black. My friends are black. Black people write things. Black people do art. Black people make movies. That's who makes stuff for me. So that's what I'm showing you. But they act as though everything you do as a black person has to take them into consideration. It's being done to curate it to them and to this. And I'm like, has it ever occurred to you that in the same way you live in your little white world, I'm living in my little black world? Has ever thought of you I like blackness, that I think blackness is cool? Because I do. I think it's the pinnacle of cool.
You found that out, which is beautiful. You found, like, hey, this is it for me. I'm going to be black in this space. I'm going to be black in this space. I'm going to be black in this space. And it's crazy because, back in the day, it was kind of like, I'm going to be black, but I have friends that I sat with who couldn't even, like, let's take it even far, because these white supremacy, it just finds itself in everything and everywhere. And it's funny because being a 5-year-old in kindergarten, having a lot of damn hair, because I ain't no bald-headed hoe, but, having a lot of hair and, pulling up in the classroom, and my mom having to tell me every day, you're beautiful, your hair is beautiful. But I get into kindergarten and my teacher, who is white, doesn't acknowledge me. She doesn't acknowledge me at all. She even says, is that your home? Because my home was in the back. They could see it over the fence. They're like, is that your home? Is that where you live? Yes, I live in this neighborhood. Yes, I live in that predominantly white neighborhood, heifer. Like, you don't have to disrespect me. But growing up,
that's how they go.
doing anything black at all, being black, being and young and here in America and all that, they literally will tell you, oh, you know, you should, if you have an accent, you should try speaking more proper. We saw how I was watching the Sydney Poitier interview, and I heard him saying, you know, how that lady was like, oh, you have such a thick Bahamian, you had such a thick Bahamian accent. Girl, he still got a Bahamian accent. That does not go away. It might have a touch, a sprinkle of whatever is American. Me and my siblings were talking here yesterday, and they're like, Rebecca, you got them saying your name as, you know, Azar, like Azor. He's like, and that's funny. So he put it in his phone to see how all the other languages said it, and they were all saying Azar, right? Just like that. And then he put it in English, and English was the only way that was saying it wrong. Azor. But they're the ones that told me that's what my name should have been stated. That's how I should have been stating my name. Like, you know what?
I actually was reading about this last night. Oh, me and my brother.
Y'all gonna leave my country accent alone. Tell your brother leave my country accent alone.
But I was reading Border and Blue, right? This book. I was reading this book, and it's about how America has intentionally framed you know what, essentially what they call a border crisis and a migration crisis are the direct consequences and results of America's imperialism, right? That is essentially the argument and how the narrative has been framed this way. And I think a beautiful testament to that, and specifically what you're talking about, Rebecca, is the way America frames itself as this nation of melting pot, like a melting pot of diverse people, a nation of ignorance, immigrants, and that's a nation of ignorance.
Ignorance, that's a good Freudian slip, though.
Okay. But anyway, a nation of immigrants intentionally to eradicate the fact that what it really is was a bunch of diverse people, indigenous people, black people that you intentionally moved, depossessed of their land, and forced assimilation in all these different ways. They legally did this in order to perpetuate and centralize whiteness, right? In order to brand this imperialism and to be, you know, anti-black. And it's very similar in the same way. They bring us here, or we come here, you know, a lot of us come here based on what are the results, not me, but what are the results of how things have happened in their country and historically from America's influence. But then you come here, and then immediately what they start trying to do is take away your cultural aspects. Don't talk like this. Don't be like this. Don't da-da-da-da-da. And like force it down and mash it down. And that's the way in which, first of all, it keeps your history. It keeps you uninformed because you don't even know. You're treated as though, you know, let me assimilate, or I should be trying to be American, or this. You don't even realize the more insidious and nefarious intentions behind it. But that's what they do. They take your language from you. The minute, when I first came to the U.S., my first year in America, they swear they could not understand a word I say. They don't understand me. They don't know my name, blah, 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 blah. And what I realized, and the same way you say, you know, that's when they say it in English is the only time it changes. America's the only place I go where everyone acts like they don't understand context clues. Like where all of a sudden I'm not speaking a language. If you didn't hear that specific word or something, they're like, what does that mean? I don't understand, blah, blah, blah. You could understand.
Are you speaking English?
Y'all gonna leave my country accent alone, because I can't pronounce your whole... I feel so bad because I'm a victim of everything that y'all are talking about here. Because obviously being, you know, I'm a sixth generation American. I done got all of the problems of that, including the Azor. Sorry, Rebecca. Tell your brother I apologize for messing up your family.
No, but you corrected it. You correct yourself on this last few years. I got you right, and you corrected it. Respect. We're not gonna be around here disrespecting people's names. Like Olay, your name, you know, you have like a Nigerian name, and then on top of that, you're from the Bahamas, baby. You are blended with a lot of, you know, culture, and people gonna get it right. Your accent is beautiful. It's funny because Americans,
that right there, the fact that they want to get it right is another reflection of how blackness is esteemed. Think about this. This has been my name for 28 years. Right. Don't nobody say it right. They don't care. The disrespect that I dealt with. The minute now you're on TV and they like you, they follow you by the tens of thousands. Now they care. Now they care. Announce my stuff. Now it's a beautiful name. Now they want to know it. You didn't want to know it because you inherently respect my name and my blackness and my identity. You like me because you decided to pick an individual black person. You like me. I rub you the right way.
She's trending right now. She's trending.
Now you want to know, but you didn't have innate respect for my name and my blackness. No, you didn't. And I know it. Not y'all, but you know what I'm saying? The rest of them. I'm like,
shout out to my boy Ryan Grimm, who got your name right on the. He's like, I was watching that episode and I'm like, dang, I got to do better.
Listen, Ryan be in his bag. The first time I heard that, said, go ahead.
Ryan pronounced that name so correctly. I felt bad. I felt like my blackness just went down a little bit.
Ben, it's only him. Don't nobody.
It's only Ryan.
You need to hear it on Law and Crime. You'll feel better. You'll feel better, Ben. Go ahead and say it there.
That's why we stopped at Olay. You told us no. Just say Olay.
She got me right the first time.
Just
Just call me Olay.
I was like, okay,
Right.
I'm gonna try. Because look, all the men I talk to, African and Haitian. So I was like, I gotta get this. It gotta be right. Okay, Olayemi, Olurin.
Listen,
I practiced the whole time.
Bahamian family don't be caring to say it right. Listen,
Y'all should see me trying to pronounce my attorney's name.
I have
She's
a
from
sister
Nigeria.
named Olufemi. My sister's name is Olufemi. My great aunt, to this day, she goes, "What's your name? Olufemi? Whatever. Olufemi.
Olufemi.
Black aunties are black aunties.
No, Olay, not them calling you Olaf. Not your ex calling you Olaf in a text message.
You saw that?
Yeah.
Right?
And I told you he was calling you the snowman from Frozen.
You
from Frozen?
Man.
I was like, sir, why would you look at the disrespect? No, they don't be. You know that the beauty to no one cares. You know how no one is interested in your name. It stresses them out. Your person. Don't nobody ask me my middle name. In 28
I know you got one too.
Thing. Girls, you putting a big
You got a middle name too? I gotta learn.
You see?
What's the middle name, Olay?
She African.
If I tell men my middle name, they break into a sweat. They be like,
Oh boy, I'm already sweating. Hang on, what is?
They be like, "Ooh, baby, I'll call you."
Okay, so say it.
Oh, Tulalupe.
See, I told you she's African. It's gonna be like
Tulalupe.
I can pronounce that.
Every name has a syllable.
Tulalupe, right?
I'm bad with vowels. You have to understand one thing. I don't know if it's an American thing, a Southern thing, but vowels are very difficult. Say your middle name again, because that was easier than your first name. If you ask me.
Tulalupe. Like Tulalupe.
I can say that. Give me some consonants. I'm in the game.
My best friend Ian likes to regularly ask me. Sometimes she'll just go, "Hey, is your name difficult for you too?"
Y'all need a difficult names anonymous group, right? Like it's gonna be anonymous.
I swear.
You need a support group.
He'd be like,
But
"You don't get tired of saying that."
That's another beautiful thing of being black, because with black Americans, we know what kind of names we're gonna get. Like for last names, Johnson, Williams, Dixon, and then
Dixon.
with Haitian names, all the men are like Robinson, Dieterson, Edson, Iverson. It's like, why you gotta add all the sons? Peter's son, not just Peter, Peter's son. Okay, I'm like, why y'all doing that to the Haitian? And then all of us, we're like Rebecca, Melinda, Robinson, Jonas. They gotta go and get those names from the Bible, and then they gotta go. It's just. Marie-Loud, Marie-Rose, Marie Saint Louis. That's it. It just goes down.
But I love the culture though in that. Bahamian names don't traditional Bahamian name just sounds the same way a traditional American name would sound, right? You wouldn't know they're Bahamian. I know I would, but and I think I like, my mummy's name is Monique, and she always thought that was stupid because she's not French. And she so my mommy always put this heavy emphasis on cultural names. So I like my name as far as an identifying feature, right? Like you see the name and you're like, oh, that's a Nigerian, and it is. It's a knockoff. Yeah, it's a knockoff. Yeah, don't get not
knockoff,
but a Nigerian nonetheless. So I like that. I love.
I you know what, Olay, we always love when you come on. We never know what to expect when you come on. Listen, we're coming up to the end of the show, getting ready to head over to the after party. Before we get ready to go over there, how can people support everything that you're doing?
Listen, follow me on Twitter and social media at Miss Olurin, and you can see all my different initiatives. Oh, and read my Tea and Vogue op-ed that came out last month, and keep on the lookout for all my other projects.
Olay, I have to ask you about something, Olay, as well too. Those pictures on your wall back there, everybody has been graving in the chat room. Like, what you know about that, Olay?
A lot.
I always notice them.
Let me show y'all my babies. This is my freezer. I had these all custom done. Well, except those. I drew those. Those are just doodles at the top.
You drew those?
Oh, she draws. I drew Hormone Monstrous and Helga and
she draws, y'all.
And I drew the Boondocks and Vegeta over there that people like. But these I commissioned from a black artist in Texas named Leo Hendricks.
She draws.
This is Boma, but make it black. Look, I even put on her shirt. I have it say "bruh."
Bruh, I saw that too.
And I got Yamcha, I got Frieza, and I got Piccolo.
love it.
Yeah.
And for the simple fact that you know the names. Yes, indeed.
Oh, I'm a nerd. Oh, I'm a nerd. I got
Listen, Dragon Ball. If you are in your 30s, yeah. If you're in your 30s, you need to know Dragon Ball Z, period. Like, that's probably where it stops. But if you don't know Dragon Ball Z at any point, like, you could be sassy, whatever. But if you in your 30s, if you 30 plus at this point, you need to know. I know you grew up on Dragon Ball Z.
Olay not even in her 30s if I did my math right? Olay?
28.
Right.
28.
Olay is a baby.
I got. Thank you. Thank you.
I got gray hairs older than you.
2 years you're older, Rebecca.
31, 28,
I've got gray hairs older than you,
Olay was a baby. Olay wasn't even thought of when I was over there terrorizing.
Good. That's how I wanted to be. Listen, I'm scared. I'm shook. I was 25 when this pandemic started. I'm sick. Like 2020.
Now that's crazy.
I was 10 when this pandemic started.
I'm going too far. This is going too far.
Pandemic. I'm like, wow, you taking my best years. That's crazy.
This is going too far.
3026 of the pandemic.
The only reason about impending age is because I'm convinced myself. The only reason, hear me out, and this isn't just women saying it because I'm trying to like lie to myself before some hating man in the comment. When I say I'm getting finer, I am getting finer because I have more money to make it happen, right? I am getting finer. So I'm just saying, my 30-something will have more money than she has now. I'm going to be finer. I'm just going to tell you right now. I'm getting better looking with time, people. And y'all can't see it because the sweater's going on, but body. Okay.
Yeah.
Come on, Body.
Listen, it's funny, Olay. Stop playing with us. You be around here like, oh yeah, and when she first came on, I was like, she's giving us blonde wig, brown skin, extra. Read all about it. Now it's funny because I'm like, okay, like you're right. Sometimes we don't be ugly, we just be broke. Okay, when you able to afford a better phone, then they can see she's black and beautiful. Now your hair done, your nails done, you got the right foundation.
Everything done, did.
You got the right foundation, baby. You're not using the ashy no more. You're not using the over hot orange. You're not using the over too cool.
You can afford a closure. You don't need
a closure, baby. And you know bundles, baby. I can switch my hair up weekly. Y'all. Now I'm not there, but
I honestly just want to apologize to all the men that have dated me between the years of like 2015 to 2018. And I appreciate that you saw the potential, young man. I appreciate that you saw that. But no, it really was down by comparison. I really had no money. And I'm telling you, listen, if y'all knew my weave, my wigs, really, I've been through some things, some clothes. It really was a transition. I can't. But now, I'm going to catch some luck with it. Listen, I started out this year, I'm giving looks, okay? Y'all just
we're replying. Look, DMs are open. We are replying to DMs all year long. Let me tell you something now.
No. Protect your peace. Y'all don't want me. Leave me alone, man.
No. What'd you say, Olay? You toxic?
It's in your best interest.
You protect your peace. Protect your peace. You don't want to come around.
You know what? Listen, Olay, you got to be honest with it. You got to be honest with it. Because back when I was, you just 28. But back when I was 28, I was in the streets.
2 years ago, girl. 2 years ago.
But I know you're in pandemic streets right now. You're in pandemic streets right now.
I'm just not. I don't got no love to offer like that. You ever catch yourself like I had to be honest. I was watching a podcast and men was talking bad about women, and I felt called out. The man was like, women they don't like you. They like how you fit into their life. They're looking for opportunities. I was like, you know what? You got me there.
No, wait, I'm sorry. Oh, wait. What's wrong with that part, though?
Well, let me tell you what's wrong with it, Ben.
Because I mean,
I as a person who remembers information well, knows people, is really good at forming interpersonal relationships and caring about people. When I was last dating, which hasn't been for a minute, when I found myself like I have to make men, like I have to open up a notes application on my phone and start writing stuff about this man to remember, because there's no natural intrigue that keeps it retained.
Oh,
like, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh wow,
so he wasn't interesting. He wasn't interested.
I'm not interested in them. It was me not interested in none of them.
He wasn't interested.
None of them.
And then you said best wishes to the people who I dated between 2015 and 18. At least they saw it. Olay, you a whole fool.
She's a whole fool. But it's good. It's good. Keep
both of them together
being
Jesus.
Keep living that way and give him the glory. Keep living that way right now because that's how the way you should be living. Let me tell you something. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Keep doing your thing. You are getting finer and nobody should be benefiting off of that in any way that's from the past, baby. We moving on and onward, okay? You fine. You fine. You're going to get finer with time. Okay,
the encouragement I need, the affirmation.
We're getting checks over here. So we're getting checks. I know mine might be paycheck to paycheck, but back then when I was a little rusty, and I wasn't living I was living dime to dime. I didn't care. I got $10 in my account, pay a bill or go to a party.
Shout out to our food base.
I wasn't. There was a struggle, but now. Give him the glory. Now they in my DMs. Now they asking me if they can be on the show. Just yesterday, it was like,
see, they like me the whole time. In fairness to men, it's not them. They liked me the whole time. I just want them to want more. I want them to want better for themselves. You ever have a man like try to holler at you when you're not looking that cute, and you're like, wow, baby, you don't. This way
you deserve.
Like, wow. I'm like.
Dang,
like that's really me. I have a friend. Be honest with you, my best friend said to me the other day. She was like,
"Oh my God, bro!"
I tried to spin the block, and I was like, "Sir, this man didn't like me in 2018." And my best friend was like, "No, were you in 2018? You are now." She was like,
"Listen, I got a clip. Listen, since we still talking."
Grow.
Now listen, I got a clip from Fresh and Fit. If y'all talk about relationships, we gonna keep talking.
God.
We could.
Yes.
I was trying not to bring that in.
I don't think we have it.
Now this is the thing. Drop that though. This is gonna be Fresh and Fit talking about women again, but this time, listen to this. This.
But before we do, I want to check with Olay because we're past the 10 o'clock hour. We're getting ready to go.
I'm here. I got time. I don't got court today.
So let's take Olay with us to the
clearly.
after party.
Clearly. What you said, David?
Let's take Olay to the after party. She's like, what did this guy say?
Yes, I'm going to go to the after party.
All right, let's go to the after party. That give us time to get that clip, Rebecca. And David and Dwayne, I'll send it over to you in Slack. DJ exclusive. Take us to the after party. We're going to have some more fun right after this.
How you gon' lie when you look me in my eyes and you show me a facade? Show me a facade. How you gon' lie when you look me in my eyes and you show me a facade? Show me a facade. You a lie. You a front. You say anything long as you get what you want. Tryna play me like a fool, homie. I am not a clown. It ain't nothing but a game, cause all you do is mess around. Now I'm on the verge of a meltdown. I should've known when I met her back at Midtown at Dogwood when I was going through a rough patch, but it's all good. I even told about the dark times I had in childhood when we was driving off of I-10 in Kirkwood. Now all that time I never get it back. You wanted that. Used to hate when I didn't want
camera went out.
I noticed that. Used to talk about Jake and put your used to messing with them white boys. Now she went black. Wait a minute. Guess you went and
got yourself a joint today.